Hi guys, welcome back to The Contented Plant. Today we are starting a brand new series on a cutting that I just got. This is a Monstera, and if you take a look at the top of this leaf, you can see that this is a Monstera with a small amount of variegation. So this is a cutting that I purchased on Facebook Marketplace. I got it for a really good price. I was only willing to get it because it was a good price. It's a very low variegation, and as we all know, that has a really high risk of reverting back to green. So we're gonna talk a little bit about that in this video. We're also gonna go ahead and pot it up. You can see it has a fantastic root system going on. It's been propagating and doing really well in this little jar. It also has a new leaf bump trying to pop out. So we're gonna go ahead and pot it up in my aeroid mix, and we're gonna see how it does and watch this continue on together. So let's get started. So I'm gonna give you guys a brief backstory on my experience with Monstera albos that I've had. My super sweet husband bought me a gorgeous cutting for Christmas last year. It was beautiful. It had candy cane striping all over the stem. It had beautiful variegation on the leaf. It was very good quality cutting. However, I live in rainy Washington State, and we had one of the darkest, rainiest winters that we had had in a long time. And it really did not help that cutting out. It was not able to root. It kept trying, and then it would rot, and then it would try, and then it would rot. And I just kept cutting back the rot and going back and forth through all different kinds of methods. Finally, I did get it in sphagnum moss to put out a second growth point, and it was putting out another leaf. It had an aerial root that was about this long, and my little 3-year-old boy ran past it, and his shoulder hit the grow light, and it knocked the cutting on the floor and snapped the aerial root off. And that was it. I tried really hard to get it to grow after that, and it was done for. So that was like 7 months that I put into that cutting that it did not make it, which was really sad because not only was it a gift, it was also a beautiful, beautiful cutting. So I'm gonna try again. I have this one here. And again, this is a super low variegation cutting. It's very low, but because it was so low, I got it for a really good price. I took a chance on it because it had a great root system. It also has this leaf coming up here, and it has some pretty good striping on this part of the stem. So my hope is when this leaf comes out, it's going to be much more variegated than this leaf. I honestly don't really care about this leaf. This leaf is kind of, if it, just grows and does its own thing, that's fine. What this leaf is going to help me out with is the low light. So it has a lot of green on it, which means this is going to photosynthesize a lot better than a traditional super variegated Albo Monstera cutting. So I think this is going to help me get through the dark winter, and it's also going to help provide a lot of extra nutrients and growth to this leaf here, which I'm hoping will come out much more variegated. So my plan with this cutting is I'm going to pot it up. We're gonna look and make sure that this one's doing okay, and we're gonna hope that this leaf comes out much more variegated. If it does, and we have a new growth coming out here, then down the road, I might be able to chop and propagate this new leaf and create a different cutting that has much more variegation. I honestly think this one will grow and it will do just fine, but it's probably gonna put out a lot of green leaves out on this side, and that's fine. That's fine with me. What I'm hoping is I can capitalize off of this striping on this stem part here and create a more variegated plant off of that. I have my little baby Monstera from seed that I've grown for a size comparison so you guys can see. So this is the Monstera that I grew from seed. It's getting enormous. It put this huge leaf out, and this guy is almost the same size. So this one has been sitting in my kitchen window, and it gets that bright indirect morning light, and it has done fantastic. So when I pot this one up, I am also gonna put it in the exact same spot because all my Monsteras love it right there. So it's just gonna sit on my kitchen counter all winter long and hopefully get as much light as it can through the dark, rainy Pacific Northwest winter. And we're gonna hope that it keeps growing. If it needs a little extra help, I do have a grow light that I can put on it, but it also gets a lot of nice humidity in the kitchen. So we're gonna go ahead and do that. So the first thing we're gonna do is try and remove this beautiful little cutting from this jar without breaking it. Honestly, it's done extremely well, almost a little too well. You can see there's a root that literally grew up and over the bottom of the stem and is coming out of the jar. So if I can't gently remove this without breaking the roots, then I'm gonna go ahead and just break the jar, because the jar doesn't matter to me as much as this cute little leaf. So let's get started and figure out how we're gonna take this out. Okay, so my mix that I use for my aroids and my monsteras that's been working extremely well for me is a mixture of potting mix, perlite, and orchid bark. They really seem to love this chunky orchid bark. I think it just adds good air into the soil and it keeps it light, because the one thing you don't want to do with monsteras is have a really heavy, compact soil that sits around those roots, squeezes them tight and holds that moisture, because that's where you're going to get your root rot. So you make sure that you have good space in there and good drainage. Okay, so I have about 60% potting mix, 20% perlite, and 20% of this chunky orchid bark. I'm just going to mix it all together and then we're going to add it into our pot. I will be potting it into this clear pot so I can keep an eye on the root growth, so we have another way of telling how healthy the cutting is. All right, so here is my potting medium that is all mixed together and ready to go. The next step is to gently remove this cutting from the jar. And like I said, if I cannot do it, then I will simply break the jar, but I'm going to very gently, without hurting that one root, work it out. Ooh. Oh my gosh. This is absolutely nerve-wracking. Oh, I got it. Oh, okay. Whew. Take a moment to compose myself. Okay, so you can see this has absolutely beautiful growth happening on it. All of the new roots are well over an inch or two long, which is kind of the mark that you're shooting for. This aerial root that it started with actually split into two roots that are growing just fantastic. There is no rot on this cutting. It's doing so well. I'm very excited about it. So we're gonna go ahead and pot this up. I'm gonna stick that in there. Okay, now I'm gonna kind of angle this out. So I'm just gonna gently start putting soil in and around that root structure. All right, I'm gonna turn it this way so you can see that I have this kind of angled this way. Now, these are roots all the way up here, so I need to fill all the way up to the top of this so that our roots are completely covered. I had to get a little more soil mix. This pot's pretty big, but I think it'll work just fine. I'm out of my smaller pots, so it's gonna have to work. I have it potted just like this so that the stem is free from the soil, because we don't want that rotting. Here is the new leaf bud, which has plenty of room to come up. I have the root structure covered right here. Now, the leaf looks a little bit wonky because it's now kind of off to this side. So if you're holding this plant straight, it kind of looks like the leaf is kind of off to the side and wonky. That's okay, it doesn't matter. This leaf is just gonna kind of do what it wants over here, and the second leaf should come up a lot straighter. What I might do if I don't like the way it's leaning is just add a little bamboo stake to just give the leaf extra support. Honestly though, this cutting does not need it. The root structure is so good on it that it is firmly held in place. It is not falling over whatsoever, because those roots are just really, really good. So I'm watering this using water from my fish tank, which has lots of nitrates and goodies for my cute little plant to eat while it's transitioning to the soil mixture. So I think it's gonna do really well. So my plan of action for this cutting is to keep it in the bright indirect area of the kitchen that has that nice morning light. I will also add a grow light if I feel like it needs it through the dark, dark winter days. I think it's probably gonna go dormant if it doesn't get enough light, and that's okay. It can just sit in the soil and kind of not grow throughout the winter, and it'll probably start growing again in the spring and summer. It won't rot though, as long as I don't overwater it. Keeping it in water is pretty risky through the winter time, so I'm happy that it's sitting in soil And as long as I can keep an eye on the health of the leaf, the health of this new leaf that's coming out, I think it'll be okay. So I'm willing to take a risk on putting it in soil right now. Normally, I would not buy a Monstera Albo with this low of variegation. It's extremely low. And if you run into other people, they would probably tell you that's really stupid to buy a Monstera Albo that doesn't have hardly any variegation on it. And I would agree with them. I took a chance on this for two reasons. One is I do see potential on this stem part here. It does have a lot more striping than this one. So I think potentially this could have a lot more variegation down the road. Two, I have not been able to find a lot of information on the internet from other people that have had a cutting with low variegation. I've found a lot of forums where people are asking questions and trying to figure things out. So I wanted to make this series so that those people could have a place to come and we can kind of do this together and see how it goes. It's kind of an experiment. So we're gonna try it. We're gonna see if we can encourage more variegation. My hope is down the road, if I do get a leaf out here that has more variegation and some stem growth with more striping, later on down the road, I will probably chop that and see if we can encourage a more variegated cutting from that. But like I said, it's an experiment. It's a series that we can all follow along with for fun and see how it goes. I'm really excited. It's just fun to have an opportunity to kind of play with plants like this and see how it goes. I don't take my plants too seriously. I have a lot of fun with them. And I think part of the fun in plants is to do experiments and see what works and see what doesn't work. So we can all learn together. I hope this video helped you guys out. Please let me know down below if you would like to see more on this cute little Monstera kind of Albo cutting. We're hoping we'll turn it into a better Monstera Albo, but we'll see. So let me know if you have any questions down below and I will see if I can answer them for you. Otherwise, you can follow me on Instagram and TikTok at The Contented Plant. Have a wonderful day and we will see you next time. Bye-bye.